Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and over the past week leading up to today, there has been a lot of information regarding the next iPhone, or the iPhone 12, the iPhone 12 Pro, and iPhone 12 Pro Max. What they'll look like, kind of what's going on as far as design, and some other things as well, along with some other Apple products that we should be able to expect pretty soon. So I wanted to talk about all of those things just like I've been covering them every week. Now, the first thing has to do with AirPods. We can expect a new version of AirPods, maybe AirPods 3, AirPods Lite. I've even heard AirPods X, and the name has not been confirmed yet, at least to my knowledge, but the AirPods should be somewhere either similar to these AirPods 2, maybe in between the AirPods Pro. Whether or not it will be a third series or a replacement for one of these, probably the AirPods 2, if any, maybe we'll see that pretty soon as maybe the 13-inch MacBook Pro releases, or 14-inch, depending on what they decide to do with the screen. So that could be as soon as this coming month, maybe next month, and that's according to John Prosser, as well as a lot of this information about the iPhone 12. He's been getting a lot of information right. He was right about the iPhone SE and a lot of other things. And so the iPhone 12 looks like it's definitely going to have that iPhone 4S or 5S SE design. And so it could look like this, squared off, and I'm really glad to see that that's basically what it's going to look like. And along with that squared off design comes a couple other things that I think a lot of people will be happy about. Many people tell me how they're not happy with the notch on the current iPhone if you have a Face ID iPhone. Personally, it's never really bothered me, but it looks like they're going to shrink it down. Now, they won't technically get rid of it 100%, it looks like, so it's going to take a while, but it looks like they're going to shrink that notch down and also reduce the bezel size overall. So it will give us a better screen to body ratio and then a smaller Face ID notch area. I'm anxious to see what this really looks like when it comes out, but it seems like that's what it's going to be like. Now, along with that, it looks like we're going to still have the Lightning port, so no move to USB-C, and it seems to make sense since Apple looks to be going all wireless in the future. So where they're continuing to work on AirPower, where you can just set this down along with any of the AirPods or your watch and just charge wherever you want. It makes a lot of sense as long as they get the ports correct and maybe even have some Pogo ports or a smart connector similar to the iPad Pro that I have here. So maybe we'll see something like that in the future. Now, one of the color variants that would be nice, it seems like Apple is definitely going to be coming out, or at least considering, a blue color this year, maybe to replace the midnight green color of the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. So this is the space gray color, but they have space gray, silver, green, and gold, and maybe the green will be replaced by blue. I would welcome that. I prefer blue, but each person has their own preference, and either way, I'm happy that we have a couple different choices to choose from. Now, instead of having this curved glass this year, it looks like Apple for the iPhone 12 series will go to a flatter glass design similar to the iPhone 5 and 5S. I welcome this. It makes it feel pretty premium and squared off on the edges. The rounded edges are nice when you're swiping from the very far edge, but it looks like they're going to be squaring that off. Maybe that will help reduce the bezel size and things like that because they don't have to have the curved glass over it. So it looks like that's what we're going to have. We also should have some wider antenna bands, similar to what we have on the iPad Pro. Just like this, built into the top of the iPad Pro, we have antenna bands, and it looks like Apple may be widening them on the iPhone to accommodate 5G. So if you are looking forward to a 5G iPhone, it looks like we may get that. Whether or not it will have millimeter wave is really hard to say. But at this time, it looks like Apple would be goofy not to add it since all the other phones are adding it. And it appears that they'll need wider antenna bands to do that. Now on the back also, it seems like the lenses that protrude may be flattening out on the next iPhone. So right now on the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max, the lenses actually stick out quite a bit. It looks like Apple may be flattening that out a bit. And then again, having 4 different openings here. So you'll have the 3 cameras you currently have along with a LiDAR sensor, just like we have on the iPad Pro. Again, the cameras would be flattened out like we have on the iPad Pro, so they wouldn't protrude as much. You'd have more of a square module along with a LiDAR sensor and then your wide angle, regular, and telephoto lenses. And I think that makes sense. I think Apple will do that, and I would expect that to be close to final. Now, one of the more interesting things is in the CAD models that were leaked, it seems like we've got a smart connector on the side. Now, traditionally, this is used for an Apple Pencil, but it doesn't look like Apple is going to be putting a pencil on the iPhones. So according to John Prosser, it doesn't seem like we're going to have an Apple Pencil to attach to our iPhones, but maybe it'll be used for something else. Maybe a charger instead of Lightning port. In the future, maybe some accessories. It's hard to say exactly what that'll be for, but we'll know in the future for sure once it releases. But it seems like it's going to have that smart connector and perhaps even better speakers than we have now. Apple's speakers tend to be pretty decent, and these should be even louder and maybe even better. Getting better and better, just like that 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now, according to Mark Gurman of Bloomberg, and again confirmed by John Prosser, it looks like Beats may be phased out and then rolled into Apple under their AirPods brand. And Apple is working on over-the-ear headphones. So they apparently have these over-the-ear headphones that have swappable magnetic parts that allow you to change out the padding on maybe the band, or maybe change out the ear cup size and things like that. So we should see that in the future. Whether or not that will be later this year or fall later into the following year, it's hard to say at this point, but it seems like Apple's working on that. Now, one piece of information I thought was pretty interesting was the information saying there may be a next generation iPad Air with a mini LED display and an under the screen Touch ID sensor. So instead of having the Touch ID button like we have on this iPad Air 2, it would be under the screen, maybe less bezels or bezel-less, and also mini LED. And mini LED would help with the backlight that is not micro LED, so I'm looking forward to micro LED displays, but mini LED displays would help the display look even better and possibly get even thinner. So it looks like those are coming maybe next year. Also coming next year, it seems like we're going to have an ARM MacBook. There's more and more information talking about that, and it would be similar to the 12-inch MacBook that we had for a while that was fairly underpowered, but it looks like Apple may be making an ARM version of that first, which seems to make the most sense. And then information again is hinting that Apple may be making a game controller, similar to maybe an Xbox or PS4 or PS5 controller. It seems like they may have their own game controller. Whether or not that works with anything else other than iPhones and Apple TV, we'll have to wait and see, but that could be pretty interesting. And then finally, probably my favorite piece of information for the future use comes from John Prosser, and that's that Xcode may be on iOS 14 and iPadOS 14. And so I'm really looking forward to Apple releasing Final Cut Pro, Xcode, and Logic Pro for an iPad. Now, whether or not they're going to do this year, it's probably unlikely, so I'm not getting my hopes up, but that's the one thing missing for me to use this full-time as my main computer all of the time. So I look really forward to that. Hopefully we'll see that in the future, and we'll have to wait and see. So that's it for this week as far as information. Of course, I'll keep you updated next week as long as we have some good, reliable information. And I'm pretty excited for the next generation iPhone to be more squared off. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, though, in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description as I always do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.